Gets knocked away, and it's taken by Pat Beverly. Beverly quickly into the front court. Little trail pass now. That's a good dish by George. And the scoring is Kevin Geller.
George got 22. George has 27. LeBron with 22 points. That's a three. Good! Wow, what a shot. Paul George has really got the stroke. He's got to take contested shots.
10-2 Mavericks out in front. Clippers just 1 for 6. George cradles the ball down the lane with his back to the basket and lays it in. Paul George with both buckets for the Clippers.
The free ball by Conley. The inside shot by Gobert. Kawhi. Paul George. The three. Good.
We got a taste of it in the bubble, and he hasn't stopped.
Joe gets tossed down. No call. Three. Again. Paul George.
Clippers opportunity to get one more bucket here to close out the first. George on a catch and shoot, lets it go and knocks it down. George with a game high 36, rising up with a deep three over Ayton, got it. On the kick, corner three from Batum, yes. All-time lead.
And all of them have been wide open.
They need to free him from the blitz and need to rebound a little better. But overall, guys, Steve Kerr told me that he's actually, quote, very pleased with how they've been playing, Mark.
AU basketball with Donovan Mitchell. I'll start with the Utah Jazz. George from deep. Butter. Nothing but net.
Chicago shooting 53%. Clippers at 42%. And now Kawhi for the trade. Got it. And the Clippers creep to within one. Lob to Leonard from George coming out of the timeout. And it is all systems go now. Kawhi with 31.
one of his 9 assists right here. Off the dribble, one hand. You had 2.
George with the lob and the flush by Zubac.
That's what we talked about in the open. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard making plays.
George in the corner being defended by Thornwell. They'll throw it to George with 2. George with 1. Lets it fly. Good at the gun. Paul George with a phenomenal second quarter. 13 of his 18 points coming that period.
Quite simple. Get the ball into the playmaker's hands.
His buddy. Man. Paul George ready for takeoff. PG-13 as Luke Walton calls another timeout.
A burst from that second unit. He's going to be the anchor when it's all said and done. George. Oh my! Look out below! Oh, you've got to get up to throw down Paul George and the Clippers out in front 11-10. Paul George getting into the act.
You kind of like that one, didn't you? Starts with the split, finishes by throwing it.
They are very happy to have him back. Paul George salutes a pair of defenders and throws it down with a couple of hands.
Rated PG, but it was worth all 2 of these. Paul George to the rim with authority.
At him, he never hesitated with the defender basically in his face.
What a move by Paul George for the second bucket for the Clippers.
You see Paul George turn down the screen. They were forcing up shots, and there's a little pick of the pocket right there, and the ability to finish over the top. Paul George
looking very impressive here in this first half.
Big scoring quarter for OKC to get them back.
Shoots the 3, then drives by his defender. Great ball movement again. George with the cruel intention. Hands to Lou, and he lays it in.
Paul George cut off by Ennis. Almost had the steal. George with the throwdown.
Good screen by Batum. Uh-oh, Paul George gets downhill and covers a lot of ground from takeoff to touchdown. Timeout Cavaliers.
The Clippers responded well, and Paul George taking.
George directs traffic. 2 seconds left. Contested 3. Whoa. Been that kind of night for Paul George. Okoro was right out there with him. George.
Review for score, no score at the end of the period here. Thrilling, successful 3.
But it's going to count. The Clippers are on top by 14.
This last night as well, trailing by as many as 17 to the Lakers. George, can he get the 3 back? He can. 25 first half points for Paul George.
I mean, can you dig it? Paul George, baseline, reversing it up and in.
George sizing up Tice. Paul George, the step back. Oh, that was nice. Over Tice. 16 seconds left. Taking a lot of time. Jackson swing it. Open look. Paul George drains the three.
Doncic came into this game 5 of his last 20 from distance. Richardson for 3. Oh, what a feed from George and a flush from Kawhi running the fly pattern.
Always good to get started early, Brian. Get an easy bucket. See the ball go in, get a layup.
Advantage Mavs by 3. Nice handles by Paul George. Got past.
Up top to a wide open Paul George for 3. Book it. Great patient possession for the Clippers to open things up.
I love that because
Rare moments that I get to chime in. George to the cup. Oh, we have liftoff here in downtown Los Angeles.
Paul George in the attack mode finishes it.
30 that didn't go through. Hayward for 3. Misses badly, and George with a leaping rebound. Lob to Leonard! Oh my!
You'll see the hand go up in the air, and
Cassell and Šamanić getting ready to come into the game for the Spurs. Paul George and 1.
Powell deflected back to Patterson. The Clippers have plenty of time. Batum into Patterson, followed by Paul George. George has his 3rd rebound and leads the Stampede the other way. George comes back and flings a 3. 6 triples for Paul George, and the Clippers lead 110-90.
kind of like we saw in Houston, the same thing is that you play hard, you always give yourself a chance to win. And speaking of playing hard, it could have been close to an offensive foul that time by Paul George.
George gets his defender in his pocket, plays catch with Reggie. The C's part, look out below, wheels up for Paul George. Last few games, Batum has been very quick with the trigger, regardless of the shot clock. When he catches, he's making a quick decision. Paul George. Oh my goodness! How nasty!
So you're talking about rookie initiation? Well, this is the rookie initiation of Paul George on Isaiah Stewart. My goodness.
Looks like they're trying to get to Morris, but Paul George will look to try to close out this half. Oh. Beautiful pass inside and great finish. And always had tough matchups against Virginia and Cornell Parker.
Paul George on a rack attack.
Wow.
Offensive exhibition tonight, 32.
In regards to Defensive Player of the Year.
Clippers are going to go small against Embiid after the 2 fouls from Zoo. George double clutcher, lay it in, counted on a foul, and send him to the line for the old-fashioned 3-point play.
It's open here. Okay, empty corner. Danny Green goes away from the screen, and this time Mike Scott a little late.
Batum against Embiid.
Can't catch that. He
well, apparently it may have hit the rim. At least that's the thought. Play continues. George getting a layup. He's got 37.
Playoff Rondo. We know the effect he's had. PG-13. Oh, that is nasty.
Carmelo, future Hall of Famer, but Paul George in the spin cycle.
Tonight. Upstairs, Paul George. Major elevation. Over man. Rims out. And George has got the rebound. Up ahead, the fly pattern. Terrence Mann off the mark. Here come the Clippers the other way. George pedal to the metal. Tied up. Finishes with a left hand.
Marcus Cousins in that category, although it was a very short-lived Rockets experience. Nice pass back. Paul George. So Paul George with 17 points. He's also got 5 rebounds, and he's got another 3. That was a 2-for-1 shot. Pass inside to George, and he's strong enough to get it to go, and he gets a free throw.
Reminds just how good Devin is and how clutch he is. You see the Clippers' face after he did that, said all we needed to know.
George, tough drive, gets the reverse inside. George off the screen, trying to turn the corner, jammed up inside, still gets the reverse. And the foul.
Basically trying to guard a guy and a half. Look at that. I mean, not many guys can do that.
4 lead for Toronto. The bounce inside, it's broken up. Morris got in there, but he's grabbing his hand. George turns on the Jets, slams it down with a big finish.
And then the very next possession, same thing. Great hesitation, change of pace.
That is the latest on Anthony Davis. Again, we have no reporter there, and we are not there. And so we are a little bit limited. And George, with a burst, finds 2 the hard way.
You see the quick double team of Kawhi Leonard when they saw that Doncic had it by himself.
Oh, and Paul George flushes it in, counted on a foul.
You see what happens here as Porzingis loses his
Hope
foot.
that is the case. Clippers looking to saw it into single digits here.
George with the flush.